So this is the product development case, part 2. So in the first part, we did steps 1, 2, and we're going to start working on step 3, which is using Solver to calculate the optimal sales price. So one of the things we're trying to do is figure out what price that we sell these products at, or we're going to make the optimal amount of money. So in step 3, it says to use Solver. We have a few constraints. The selling price must be equal to or less than $15. The sales forecast must be greater than 9,000 for most likely, 20,000 for optimistic, and 5,000 for pessimistic. And the profit margins must be greater than 50%, 47%, and 40% for the 3 different scenarios down here. Okay, so let's start with the most likely here. So there's 3 scenarios. The first 3 scenarios, you don't have to do anything with these. This is just scenario 1. If they set everything at $8, how much money would they make? If they set everything at $6.30 and $6.60, and you see that the forecast changes because as the price changes, the forecast dynamically changes up or down 1% depending on the direction of the price change to reflect the fact that when prices go down, people buy more. When prices go up, people buy less. So your task is, as a financial analyst, use Solver to figure out the optimal price to hopefully get a higher profit margin than the 512 net profits in the 512 with just the $8 sales price for every product. Since different products have different costs, and it may be interesting to see how to use Solver to do this. So I gave an example of what the Solver parameters should look like over here. Now, this is a cell we want to solve for. Now, Solver is something you may not have in your Excel. If you don't have it, you want to go to File, Options, click on Add-ins, then click on where it says Manage Excel Add-ins, Go, and then make a check mark on Solver and hit OK. And then you will have added Solver to your Excel. So to access Solver, you want to go to Data, and then you'll see Solver here. So click Solver, and already I have Solver filled in, but we may have to modify it. So we want to look at the parameters. So we had 15, 9,000, and 55%. So let me close this and go back to the memo. 15, 9,000, and looks like it's actually 50% for most likely. So we have to adjust that. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to click on the cell that we want to update, which is G28 is what we want to update. So I'm going to go back to Solver. G28 is selected. I'm changing variables in C23 to C27. So the variables I'm changing is sales price. The constraints is that for C, the C grouping of sales prices have to be less than $15. The forecast, we want the forecast in column D to be greater than 9,000, and we want the profit margin, which is in column H, greater than 55%. So I'm going to actually change. I'm going to go to change, and I'm going to we wanted this to be 50% based on the memo. So I'm going to OK that, and then I'm going to hit solve. And it comes back, okay. So now it's actually elevated. It's changed the prices. Over here, you see the prices have changed. And it's elevated our profits to 556,000. So that is for most likely. Now, for optimistic, if we go back to the memo, optimistic, we're looking at a 47% profit margin for optimistic, and 20,000 units for optimistic. Still $15 sales price. So let's go to optimistic. We want to go down to where it says Solver. You notice that I changed the sales price just to a flat 10. And I did that to match the top up here. So this is just, 1.2 million if everything was sold at $10. So let's go down here. And they did their usual scenarios of pricing it lower and seeing how that would work. And they get bigger forecasts. They'll sell more, but they make less profits. So they want to know what's the optimal price. So we're going to do this again. So let's go to Solver. And again, I have this filled in already to solve for this cell, but we want to update, again, we want to change these parameters here. So I'm going to change this to 20,000. And then I want to change this. We're pushing this down to 47. Okay, so now the constraints are set. And I'm going to solve. And I'm solving for the max because I want the maximum value of the profits. So I'm going to solve and hit OK to return. And it pushed me up to 1.3, which is higher than the 1.2 with just a straight $10. So raising the price a little bit actually can maximize, we'll sell less, but it'll maximize our profits. So now let's go to the pessimistic version. So again, I want to go, now I see here in the pessimistic version, I'm going to copy these totals here. I see that the totals aren't in place here. So I'm going to put the totals here. Actually, let me get rid of the change. There's no point of having the change here. So these are the totals in the scenarios. And the totals are here for solver, but I'm just going to, okay. Because I need the total because I'm solving for this cell here for the solver. So I'm going to go to data, pull up solver. And now this one's not filled in. So this is the cell I'm solving for. So you want that. I'm doing max, and I want to change the variables in the prices. So I'm going to set that. And now I have to add my constraints. So now we're actually adding constraints. So for the pessimistic, I'm going to add, first I'm going to do the sales price. So the reference is going to be on these cells. This is the sales price. And it's going to be less than or equal to 15. I'm going to say okay. You'll see that pops up. Now I'm going to add another constraint, which is going to be on the forecast. So it's going to be the forecasting cells. I'm going to say equal to or greater. I'll just flip this to greater than or equal to 5,000. Hit OK. And then I'm going to add one more, which is going to be on the profit margins. And again, this is going to be greater than or equal to 0.40. Okay. Now I'm going to solve. And I did get higher than just the flat $9 a product. So this is for the pessimistic view. Okay. Now that would be, we have completed step 3. And now we're asked to do step 4. Using GoalSeek to calculate the optimal sales price for our 3 sales outcomes, optimistic, most likely, and pessimistic, use the table GoalSeek to values to set the goal for 2 values. Okay, so here's the little table here. And I'm going to work on most likely first. So to make it a little easier for me, I'm just going to copy this part here, go to most likely. And I need to set GoalSeek. So there's a little note here. So use GoalSeek to see the optimal sales price for each of these cells. And I want to use GoalSeek, and I have little arrows to make sure you have to solve for each cell individually, not just the bottom cell. So I'm going to put my little chart over here so I know what I'm doing. And then I'm going to I have to go to each one individually. And I'm going to go to the what if, on the data tab, to the what if scenario, GoalSeek. And this is the cell I want to seek. The value is going to be from down here, the 65. I'll type that in. And by changing the cell, the price. So that is the setup. I'm going to hit OK. And you see it set it to 65 and found the price that would get to 65. So you see right away with GoalSeek. Now I have to do it again for each cell. I'm going to set this to 95. So you see GoalSeek is going to go just to the goal you set it. So it's not going to really, it doesn't really optimize. It's just trying to hit the goal that you want. So the next goal for product 3 is 105. We're changing the price. So you see that one limitation here is it's not taking into account any constraints for forecasts or profit margin. I'm just setting a goal for each product. Product 4 is 80,000, and it's going to find the sales price I need to get to 80,000. So it's going to change this to 803, gets me to 80,000. Now I'm going to do the last one. I'm going to set this to 100 and changing this value. Okay, so you see that here, Solver was better because I got the optimal sales price, the optimal profit margin, optimal profits, and I can control the profit margin even better. So here, my I'm going to actually, let me copy this so I have the full. So my profit margins came in lower, and I can probably, what I'm going to do is this. The average, put profit margins for each of these total. Okay. So you can see the goal seek wasn't as productive as it might have been. Now you have to do the same thing for optimistic. I'm just not going to run through it individually. So you do the goal seek for the optimistic and the goal seek for the pessimistic. And you want to use, again, I'm going to delete this chart here. It's clear because I don't need that. So you have to use the chart in the memo to understand how to set that up. Okay. So 5, calculate the net profits for all sales scenarios using net profit line net profits, or product line net profits table, the bottom of the sales scenario worksheets. Okay, so I have it filled out for sales scenario 1. So you can kind of use this template, but I don't think you can just drag it across. See, that's not working. So what we have to do is basically look to see what was done here. So E7, so scenario 2, I'm going to go plus, in scenario 2, total sales are, those are the sales dollars. The cost of goods sold here is going to be I'm going to do equals or plus again, but I want the cost of goods sold for scenario 2. And then the gross profits, I can just say this minus this to get the gross profits. Gross profit percent is going to be gross profits divided by sales dollars. Marketing here is going to be, this actually works. It's going to be 5% of the sales dollars. So 5% of the sales dollars. This is 3.5% of the cost of goods sold. So the EBIT, that formula is going to work too, because it's going to be gross profits minus marketing minus variable costs. So that's our EBIT. Tax is going to be rate at times 21%, so that field actually does work. And then net profits is going to be EBIT minus tax, and that field works. So some of these, if you do copy it across, some of the fields will work, but what won't work is for each of them, you're going to have to go to each scenario. Now we're on scenario 3, sales, and then cost. And it looks like if I just bring in the sales and the costs, the rest of it will calculate correctly. So we're going to do this again for the solver. Okay. And so you want to make sure that when you calculate the gross profits, it matches. Now you should, we have goal seek here, so we should say sales using goal seek. this should be another, and I'm just gonna move this over, copy this over, equals. Okay, so now you can see that Solver has the highest return. So this is definitely probably the best way to go for this type of project. And of course, any shoot I'm working on, I want to make sure that I finish up the formatting. These are all formatted correctly. These look like it's formatted well. There's an extra, there's an extra row here. Just going to delete that. Okay, that looks good. And then, you always should, as I've been saying before, if you're on any page, you want to go to view, and we'll freeze the top row. Then I'm going to set a print range. It's really just going to be this area. I don't need to print the directions here, so I'm going to set a print range. Insert page layout, print area, set print range, and then I'm going to do the page setup. And I want to contain this to, let me see what it looks like first. Okay, it's on a few pages. So you know what, I'm going to set this to landscape. I'm going to fit it to one page. I'm going to adjust the margins a little bit. I'm going to put the header and the footer. And then I'm going to do the print preview. So that looks good. Okay, so I'm going to go back, and that's all set now. And now you're going to do the same thing on the optimistic page. On the optimistic page, you're going to fill out the little net profit schedule here for each of the scenarios. Once you finish the scenarios here, and you want to make sure that how the most likely looks. You want to have a very similar setup to how this is going to look. And I think most of it's here. There's a few things for each of these pages you'll have to put in the totals here. It might look good to have a row here between these two. Like you have a couple rows here. But you don't need to have two rows here, sort of just a waste of space. So I'm going to delete these. All right, well. Okay, let's just make it more uniform. Okay. Go back to the memo. Create an executive summary and dashboard to discuss the results. Make sure your financial analysis, you talk about the benefits of Solver and GoalSeek, which one is better. So that's just some common sense, to create the executive summary and dashboard. So here would be the dashboard area and the executive summary you'd want to work on. So the financial analysis would include an analysis of each of the three scenarios, and then a recommendation of what optimizational tools should you use. Use Solver results, the GoalSeek, or should you just plan it out manually like it's done in the three scenarios? So, and then you would probably recommend which of the scenarios would be the most beneficial, the most profitable for the company, would be your recommendation for each likely, optimistic, and pessimistic. And then you can easily make a series of charts and graphs based on this data. In the financial analysis, you could also talk about, the either in the introduction or the financial analysis, you could talk about the process for costing each of these products based on the raw materials and components on the earlier slides. Okay, and that concludes the case. That should give you everything you need to know to get this case started. And the goal really here is, And what we're doing is developing a new product. So we're seeing what, we have inventory of raw material components, and we have different formulas to make these new products, whatever the products are. It could be an ice cream. It could be, it could be a mechanical product. We're not sure. It doesn't matter though, because what we want to know is what the finished good cost is after we add the components to the base. And then we want to see how we could possibly sell this and the profitability to the company based on these new products and the sales forecasts. Okay. Well, thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it helpful, and good luck completing this case.